Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
Entertainment news today. You're such a dragon gay. Everything sucks and it's no good. That comes out of Hollywood. But there's one place you can go to get all your news and info, and maybe even have a laugh or two. You know it's true. Midnight's Edge after dark is life. We stand for nerds and geeks, we will survive. From Star Wars to Jurassic Park, it's Midnight's Edge after dark. All those bombs and flops, but MEAD never stops. We will keep going through the night as we keep up the culture fight. Midnight's Edge after dark is life. We stand for nerds and geeks, we will survive. From Star Wars to Jurassic Park, it's Midnight's Edge after dark.
Welcome once again to the best podcast on the YouTubes. It's time for Midnight's Edge After Dark. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Tom Connors. We have CC Karaoke with us. How you doing?
Well, yeah, I'm doing all right.
Popping a cap and a
About
beer?
to do a little bit better. Yeah.
Pop top
It's been a
again.
day. It's been a day.
How you doing, Price? We got Price.
I'm doing good.
Here.
What's up?
Oh, I'm here. I'm awake. It's been a day. It's been a day. We also have Nick Weiser with us. How you doing? All 32 flavors of you.
All 32 flavors of me are good. I've had a busy day. I'm gonna actually got my camera function again, which is good. Obviously it's not on now, but I was able to get it fixed earlier, which is fantastic news. Plan on recording a video after this show. Yeah, it's been a very slow week. However, the slow things that we have seen have been fairly amusing and nothing that I can get mad at, but more so laugh at. And hello, chat and panel.
Yeah, there's literally nothing to talk about tonight, guys. So it's up to you guys to help us figure out what the fuck we're going to talk about. Because I don't want to talk about Rey. I don't want to talk about Star Wars. I honestly don't care about Bob Iger. Yeah, there was a earnings call, but it was a big bunch of bullshit as usual.
Right.
And, you know, the guys
the
over
same.
at Park Place and stuff cover it much better than we ever could, so.
Yeah,
saying,
with
Nick?
that, I'll just the earnings call is just more of the same, more just it's basically the equivalent of what you got with the election, just scripted takes, so that way Bob Iger doesn't really properly truly get challenged, and even for the 1 out of 10 challenging questions he gets, you get the most corporate answer out of all of it. It's just, it's just the endless cycle. And I feel like if
Well,
something really stuck out of it, it would have been out there for people to really talk about.
he did get caught with a hot mic, but yeah.
No, well, that's I wish there could be something more of
What
that,
hot
but
mic? What hot mic?
Yeah, he said it wasn't that big of a deal. He had said something about some AVOD numbers, and he's like, "Oh, I don't think I was supposed to say those AVOD numbers," and didn't realize his mic was still hot. So yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't like anything go, "Ooh, we caught him on a gotcha."
Yeah,
You know?
right. It wasn't like oh, smoking gun. Like it's just like oh, huh. That's where that one is
I
at.
think we're turning the corner, man. All the wagon jumpers
Yeah.
who want to be on with whatever's popular right now. They're changing teams.
Well,
Homer Simpson going into the bush and coming out with a new jersey.
I hate giving this guy credit, but I always say when you're right, you're right. It doesn't matter who it is, and he's made some really, let's just say, idiotic takes. I'll just say a comic book based YouTuber, so I don't get your stream hunted after. But he said something along the lines of, "Most people like things that are popular when they're popular because they are popular," and I agree with that take. That is the general consensus of a lot of things. And if things continue to potentially shift, yeah, people will go where that direction is by default because, a lot of people like to do the following rather than to be the one that does the leading.
I mean, I guess that's true, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily the most cleverest thing in the world.
Well, I don't think it's supposed to be clever.
Yeah,
I think it's just it's more of just a observation. To me,
Yeah,
there's
I guess
nothing
so.
clever about that statement. It's just, oh
Yeah, I
hey,
mean,
you know
it's
what?
like
So and so has a point.
kids
And
like
that's
candy; they're gonna eat candy. You know.
well, I don't see it as that. I just see it as most people when they see other people liking something, they kind of latch onto it a bit
I guess I
easier.
see it in that respect. I guess. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, C-Man is going to help us out here. He sends in $5 and he's got a topic for us. Dune prophecy is going to be good or just a female empowerment? Well, C-Man, from what I've seen from the trailers, I have very little interest in this. It looks like a big female empowerment show. I'm not understanding why we're getting a show about the Bene Gesserit when the two movies already revolves around so much of the Bene Gesserit. There isn't a whole lot you can tell me that I don't already know about the Bene Gesserit. But there's tons of other characters and elements of Dune that have not been explored, that I feel like should have been in a series if you're going to do this. Hell, there's a whole war against the machines that they could have done a prequel series of. But no, I have very little faith in this, especially since the second half of Dune really took a nosedive, in my opinion. Anybody else wanting to say anything about prophecy?
I don't know anything about Doom. I got nothing. I saw the first movie of the current series. I thought it was fairly good, but I've never gone back to it since, and I don't know if I will see the sequel or not.
Yeah, I got no interest.
I don't really know about Dune Prophecy. I haven't watched it. I don't know.
Well, it's not out yet, I don't think. The trailer is all we've seen.
Oh, the trailer? I didn't watch even the trailer. I'll tell you what, I have like kind of a negative sentiment about it because when I was at Comic-Con and I walked out, next to the center where it was at, there was a separate theater where they were going to have a special event where I guess they showed you clips from it or had you meet like cast. I don't even know. And I went there and there was like a line and they basically said to me, well, if you want to stand in line, you have to sign up for this app. And then there was an app there. And I'm like, why? And they're like, you just have to. And then after you complete A, B, C, D, then they'll give you permission to stand in a line that you likely will never, because the line was long, you'll never actually get into the theater. And the people standing there with all this app and all this stuff was really annoying. And I just said to myself, maybe I even said it kind of out loud. I said, like, fuck this show. Like, fuck you. Like, I didn't tell them personally, fuck you, but I kind of, my sentiment was, fuck this show. And then I just kept walking. I think I even said it and kept walking. So now when I think
Yeah.
about that show, it has like a negative association. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I have a negative association because of the end of the last film, but yeah. Patrick Robinson sends in $9.99 and says, with the new Fly movie, will they let Fly 2 be canon, or will they act like that movie never happened? I actually liked the second one, except for the dog scene. Yeah, I didn't hate the second film. I thought it was all right. Yeah, it's a bit more schlocky and B-movie-esque, but so is the original film they're based on. So I guess I didn't, and I like Chris Walas. I mean, he designed the Gremlins and thought it was and he designed the original Fly, so I thought it was a really good film for him to direct, and kind of, I think it was his first film directing. But I don't see why not. I mean, unless you're gonna, I don't know. Do you guys know anything about this? I guess they're doing a sequel to the Cronenberg Fly. Disney is. So, are you looking forward to this at all? I don't think Cronenberg has any involvement in it whatsoever. But I wonder. I think the question here is: do you think they're going to do just a direct sequel to the original Fly, or do you think it'll be Acknowledge the Fly 2? I think it'll be a completely different person, unrelated, and it'll be like Twisters. Like they'll have like the machines there or something like that, and that's the only connection it'll be to the original film. What do you guys think?
I'm a
Hmm.
fan of the Jeff Goldblum movie in particular. I mean, I've seen it a bunch of times, but the second movie, I think I watched it once. I forgot it by the next day, and
It was shit.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I haven't read into the remake or
Didn't they
reboot or
have a
whatever
fake
this is
Gina
gonna
Davis
be.
at the beginning of the second one?
Yeah,
That always annoyed me. Like that
she
already.
didn't want to come back for some reason, but he did. Jeff Goldblum has a cameo in it though.
Does he have it? I thought that
Yeah,
Stoltz
that
has a Stoltz is the Fly.
Souls is the Fly, but they have a video scene that Goldblum filmed that was not in the first film. So it's like a cameo scene that he
But
did.
was it a leftover?
No, I actually thought it would be too, but no, it's as far as I know, I think it's just a cameo he shot real quick.
I see.
Uh,
Well, then you know what? Gina Davis has even less excuses.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't hate it. I mean, I get it why most people don't like it compared to the first one. Yeah, the first film is like a masterpiece compared to the second film. But to me, the second film is like rubber monster, fun, schlocky. Like, you know what I mean?
As a
We
young,
actually get to see the Fly.
I have to say though that in the first movie, Gina Davis has a scene that I think for many years I kept thinking of that scene.
Probably know the one you're talking about, but yeah. Me, on the other hand, it was when the guy got his arm puked on or whatever, and it disintegrated, or his leg, or whichever one it was. Yeah.
What'd you say?
When I was a kid, it was always the guy when he got his leg or arm puked on and it disintegrated. Like that's the stuff that stuck with me.
I see. Well,
That trumped the other.
I don't know. The scene that I'm thinking of, it really it demonstrated the capabilities of Gina Davis.
Yeah, the crazy to sex ratio there, maybe.
I guess.
Yeah, she's a nut bar now.
Yeah,
Nick, you
no.
ain't said anything about the Fly. You looking forward to it at all?
I'll wait for a trailer on it. The idea of it's unnecessary, but I actually do like the Jeff Goldblum remake of it. It's one of my few remake exceptions. So, no, we'll see what the first trailer offers, and hopefully that can change my mind. As far as whether they'll let the Fly 2 be canon or not, I don't think that one will fly.
Oh, I see what you did there.
I had to bring in the terrible unoriginal joke.
I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they'll really acknowledge either one of the first two movies outside of, like I said, I have a feeling it'll be like a Twisters thing. It'll be completely new cast. The only connection will be that they'll talk about there was the Brundle Fly incident, and that's about it. That's my feeling. And it's just because all the Fox properties that Disney's made sequels of so far, they have played it very safe. Like Prey was very safe in my opinion. I haven't seen it, but from what I could tell, most people enjoyed it, but that just tells me they didn't really rock the boat too much. Romulus, but the problems most people have with Romulus is the connections with, you know, the Prometheus and Covenant films. So again, otherwise the film played it safe. Most Alien fans had no problem with it. I have a feeling it'll be the same kind of thing here. Because the guy who's over there running Fox right now, there is a guy who actually has that as like a separate department. I can't remember his name offhand, but Yeah, I think that's going to be the case. I don't have any real desire for it, but I don't really worry for it either at the same time, if that makes sense. I mean, it's just kind of like, I think it'll be fine.
That's one of the most irritating things about this. Is everything is so based. So not everything. Obviously, there's some lesser known movies come out in smaller markets or more limited release, but a lot of the big production stuff is very based on safety. They don't want to do this because the budgets. Well, okay, then do something that has less of a budget. Like especially when they try to use the these have an established fan base, and that brings in the first weekend meaning money. Everything you have once upon a time did not have that established fan base. Those things were being taken chance on. There was once upon a time when the first Iron Man was even considered a gamble. Obviously, it
Well,
paid off and so
the
much more, but
original,
that was a time where that
well,
was considered a risk.
the Fly remake was technically a gamble because
Yes.
the funny thing here is where I'm looking at it is I believe we are technically farther in the future from the Fly and Fly 2 than we are from the original Fly series, which there were 3 films in that series. Most people forget too. So yeah, that's another reason why I don't have such a problem with the Fly 2. It's actually better than any of the fucking sequels we got out of the original films. But it's just kind of weird to thinking about that. Like, I know a lot of people are so adverse to remakes, but I understand why, and I can explain why, and that is because we grew up in the video age. We grew up in a different time period than it was when a lot of these films first came out that we got remakes of in the 80s that now we hold so dear, like the Cronenberg Fly and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, we'll see how it rolls, but I'm not going to have a lot of confidence at the end of the day, but I'm also not going to sit here and go, oh, it's going to suck, definitely. Action Com's in the house. How you doing, buddy? Been missing your timestamps. What do you think of amateur trailer Rise of the Dweeby Hero? I've never heard of this. What is this about? Oh. Amateur trailer Rise of the Dweeby Hero. Rise of the Dweeby Hero. Nothing.
Amateur.
Nothing is even coming up.
Is I see. I don't know. I was gonna say, is it spelled wrong? But no, Action Com spelled it right. So I don't know what's going wrong.
And nothing come up. I even typed in Rise of the Dweeby Hero, and that didn't come up.
Rise of the Dweeby Hero.
The Amateur.
Brian Bart said The Amateur with Rami Malek.
Yeah, that's the only thing I got coming up here. Looks like
maybe it's supposed to release soon and they haven't released it.
It comes out in 2025.
Okay.
It's a spy thriller. I'd watch the trailer, but every trailer we watch on here, I end up having to go back and cut out.
It gets repetitive. I get why people want to see it on the show, and I only do it now, like that type of stuff on special occasion. But yeah, like cropping that stuff up, especially I know Tom, especially you guys have been cranking out more videos than ever. The time does pile on. We got to add that on too. Oh yeah.
Plus, they take all your revenue till you do. So it says here it's a CIA cryptographer who manages to blackmail his agency into training him to let him go after a group of terrorists who killed his wife in London. Interesting. It's a remake of The Amateur from 1981 with the original I've never heard of either. The original looks like a very small film. John Savage, Christopher Plummer. Yeah, I've never heard of it. Interesting. Ed Lauder's in it. Huh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Looks like it's the same exact plot. Can you guys take the com for a second? I gotta go get my.
Yeah, sure. Here. We can take care of the conversation. Can I acknowledge your super chats? All right. Well, since he didn't, all right. Well, I'll just do that anyway. So, Action Com for $5 says there's a scene in the Amateur trailer where somebody walks away from an explosion, but instead of walking stoic, they flinch. Deconstruction. I mean, I don't know if that's so deconstruction. I would need to know what kind of genre movie. Is it supposed to be a spoof? Is it supposed to be like a straight up action? No, if it's supposed to be action, can you say deconstruction? I don't know yet because obviously we've not seen this trailer. I'd have to watch it, and assuming that it is, I mean, that would definitely be really dumb because when we like our heroes walk away from explosions, we like them looking badass and moving away from it. I mean, the Iron Man explosion alone is one of the best ones
My guess
ever.
is that Raimi, if that's the one who's doing it, is such a pussy that he flinched,
Oh yeah.
and they weren't going to retake it. And the director's like, "Oh, everybody else doesn't flinch. We'll have our guy flinch."
And that's stupid if that's the case.
That's just a guess.
Yeah. You want me to carry it on to the next one?
Ah, I'm back now.
Okay,
Diva
perfect.
101 says, Tom, based off your son's VHS list, what is the most underrated movie so far, and what was the one you want to watch the most at the moment? Hail, chat, and panel. That's a good question. Yeah, I've got over 30 titles now that my kids dropped, so that's a good selection to choose from. Boy. Honestly, I have no desire to watch anything on VHS, especially if I have a much better version of it. But my favorite film that he's dropped so far, probably Roger Rabbit. That's just a personal favorite of mine.
What, Robert Zemeckis?
Yeah, Roger Rabbit. Yeah.
Back to the Future has to be better than Roger Rabbit.
Not in my world. But I understand when people say that. But
I mean, I don't know, man. He also was a co-writer of Back to the Future. That movie, just the writing, everything about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Roger Rabbit is great. Like it's a really, really great movie. If he didn't have Back to the Future and he would have said Roger Rabbit, I would have totally understood it. It's just like I don't know. I can't ignore Back to the Future.
if you put a gun to my head and ask me which one I want to watch first, I'd say Roger Rabbit.
No, that doesn't. I could watch. Listen, I've seen Roger Rabbit a ton of times.
That's just my opinion.
I love the movie. It's great, but Back to the Future.
Is it a
But I
hot
understand
take?
it's your opinion. We don't have to agree. You can feel the way you do, and I can feel the way I do, and we can still, carry ourselves like adults.
I don't know how unpopular this take is, but I like Back to the Future 2 better than Back to the Future 1.
Huh.
That is a problematic take, Cece.
I don't agree with that take, but I do like that movie. I definitely look back on it a lot more fondly than I did then.
I like to. I like
the biggest
to. It's not
problem
that I
with
don't
2
like.
being better than the first movie is they literally go back into the first movie.
Yeah, I
So
was
you
gonna
have
say
to have seen the first movie.
the second
for
one
it to work.
exists
Yeah.
for the first one.
Yes,
but
that's true.
I just have more fun watching. I mean, I love
No,
them
that's
both.
fair.
I'm
It's
not
kind of like
knocking the first
Deadpool and
at all.
Wolverine. Like it's my
Yeah.
favorite one to watch, but the first movie's still the better film.
If I'm trying to be a serious like critic, in that sense, then I have to say the first one because it is the classic. It's obviously structurally like just one of the great movies. But if you're putting a gun to my head and I can only watch one of, the third one's okay. I'm not really. But I love what they did with the second one. I love how they how it made the first one better, and it was a lot more fun with Biff and Dark World 1984 and all that.
So I actually taught. Tom, I'm glad you mentioned Deadpool and Wolverine. I was just talking to a coworker who's a Generation Zer a few days ago, and she saw Deadpool and Wolverine, and I was curious one thing. Okay, I am curious to see what she says because she's younger. She may have not seen a lot of those movies, especially Blade. And she had told me she had never seen Blade, never seen the Batfleck Daredevil, never seen most of the X-Men movies up to and including Logan, had only predominantly seen the MCU, but really enjoyed Deadpool and Wolverine. And I asked her, what did it feel like? Were you confused at some of the characters that showed up? She's like, I didn't understand what they added to the story in terms of where they came from, but I can tell that there were significant parts to the movie where the story is going. And I thought, okay. So she said she didn't really feel all that loss. And she never watched the Loki show either. Didn't know anything about the TVA and had no issues. So I guess Deadpool and Wolverine is a bit more accessible than, let's just say, I feel like Endgame. You have to have seen Infinity War to watch Endgame. Otherwise, nothing at all about it makes sense at all. So yeah, just interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I've had that similar discussion with people.
I thought Deadpool and Wolverine was not going to benefit from people who hadn't seen it. I guess I know. Granted, I know that's one human being who I've talked to about it, but it's interesting to know that they are out there and they do feel like the movie is successful. And I actually
Now,
I thought it was going to be the complete opposite.
someone tried taking me to task because I always say, I'm sick of doing homework. And they're like, well, how can you
Yes.
like Deadpool and Wolverine, but yet you're saying you don't want to do homework when it comes to the other Marvel films? And I'm
What?
like, there's a big difference between having to see a couple of the X-Men films, the first Deadpool movies, and that's about it, to be able to watch this compared to all the garbage you have to go through to understand shit like Doctor Strange 2.
Now, Doctor Strange, what they did there was that made it. What the worst part about Doctor Strange and the Mom was they made it so you were making it a sequel to WandaVision and not a sequel to Doctor Strange. That is wholly different. At least you could see where Deadpool and Wolverine it picks up after Deadpool 2. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not even a fan of Deadpool 2, but I do appreciate them rolling with the consistency of that aspect. And I do think it gets points for that. Just because I don't like it doesn't make it, any less valid. It's still part of the story, and that's fine.
I'll take another take on that because obviously I've had some things in my life that are going to require me to put in some additional work, so I don't have time for as much time as I might have had before for TV shows or video games or whatever. And on the one hand, I get really, really excited about like the 100+ hour video games, the ones that I could sink into for ages and ages, months on end, right? You play every day, all day for weeks. Or, that TV show that has 300 episodes and you kind of have to watch all of them to get the most out of it. And there's something really awesome about investing that deeply into the characters and the story. But it's also such an enormous time commitment that, most people probably don't have if you have any other commitments whatsoever. Anything even beyond just a regular job. Like, how are you going to find that much time other than to spend like a year of your life going through it? There's something really nice about a 10-hour time commitment or a 5-hour time commitment instead of something just stupid enormous. I'm saying this guy. I just got back to playing Cyberpunk 2077. I'm not confident that CD Projekt Red's going to put forth a great game next time, but I like this game. They did well here. They have, I think, gone woke, but this game worked out, and I wanted to play it since they fixed it up and they made it a great game. As rough as it might have been at launch, I tried it at launch. Now I want to finish it, but I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is taking up half my dang hard drive. My computer, it's like 300 gigabytes. It's 100+ hours long. And I'm going to sit here for weeks in between work trying to finish it. So what am I getting myself into? So on that level, it's like, less homework is good. It's something I can just grab for a few bucks and spend a few hours with and enjoy it and remember it. I'm good with that too.
Yeah. Well, I just miss the days when a sequel even tried to stand on its own. Right. And that's what I'll give Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah, it helps if you've seen Logan and it helps if you've seen the other X-Men movies to get some of the jokes. But the beauty of it is I don't have to have seen Logan. I don't have to have seen some of these other movies to necessarily understand some of this stuff. You can still follow it pretty well. Even the stuff from Loki, right? I didn't need to see Loki to understand that the monster just eats people from other dimensions, right? Like, that's really all I needed to know about that monster. And I don't need to know nothing else. Doesn't fucking matter.
See, that was the beauty of those phase 1, 2, and I guess you could say to a lesser extent phase 3. Even you don't have to have seen all those movies, but obviously if you're someone who wants to see them all, you benefit from the whole larger picture and narrative. That's how it's supposed to be. They're supposed to stand well on their own, but obviously the whole better picture experience when you see it, it's supposed to be like the icing on the cake type of thing.
Explain everything
when you make it it required homework, you're making people feel obligated, and people don't like feeling obligated for things. Not everyone has time for it, especially in an age of mass consumption. And people already have enough time being consumed by things, whether it's video games, movies, politics, of course, because it's obviously dominating our life no matter how much we try to avoid it. So many things are put in our face constantly. And now you're saying, now I got to shove whatever little time I have left to make aside for 4 or 5 movies or 4 or 5 shows. I am exaggerating here, but you get my point. Yeah, it that makes it frustrating for people. And that's how you ultimately push more people away. And when most people leave, they leave. That's the end. It doesn't um come back to a point where it's like, oh man, I'm all in again. Like this is the end. Like, you'll get some people back when you make a comeback. Assume that you do, but it'll never be what it once was. You'll never have that golden age again the same way you did the first time.
I'll give you another example, and this is not film and TV or media related in that sense. It's sports related. I used for like 15, 20 years, I never missed a single baseball game for my favorite baseball team, which was the Toronto Blue Jays. Take that for what that's worth. And I watched every single Maple Leafs game. I never missed a game. I was in front of that TV religiously. And then they fired Don Cherry. They canceled him. It was a woke cancellation. I can get into that one, but he said that people should, honor the veterans on Veterans Day, and they canceled him for it. And then I just stopped. I stopped watching hockey. I stopped watching baseball for similar reasons, but I've seen a lot of that in sports. People just like, CBC, our Canadian telecaster, after they fired Don Cherry, they lost 30 to 40% of their viewership overnight. And for the rest of that season, they never gained it back. I don't know what their viewership was in the 4, 5, 6 years since, but I know I never tuned in ever again. I have not turned on the CBC a single day since then. Like the last time I ever watched late night comedy, probably longer than I should have, but the day that they tried to cancel Dr. Seuss. And every late night host in tandem started celebrating how great of an idea it was to cancel Dr. Seuss. That was the very last time I ever watched any of them, for even a minute. I'm not going back. Like when you lose people, these in this way, yeah, you're right, Nick. You maybe get a few of them back until the next time you do it. But you never really recover. I mean, it's what they're trying to build a whole new audience, an audience that doesn't exist, right? That's the thing. So, we'll lose the old audience. We'll build a new audience. The new audience is not tuning into cable television.
The worst part is they automatically assume that new audience is all they're going to come there, and they assume that the older audience is just going to stick around merely because it exists. They don't think, we still have to maintain this. Why do we still have this audience around? What do we do so we can maintain them while simultaneously trying to discover, let's just pretend that this new audience did exist. What do we do to maintain that balance? They're not doing that. They're just abandoning the ship completely and assuming that modern audience will hop on and that the old audience will just stick around as well, not realizing that they gained ultimately nobody. It's that whole, once again, obvious saying, you try to please absolutely everybody on the planet, and then you lose almost everybody because of it. You ultimately please nobody. This should be getting through to someone, but clearly the logic is not stuck. And it's been, God, how long have I been babbling about the South? 3.5 years. And some of you guys, much longer than I have. They're committed, man. They are really committed, but who knows? It could be also that they're trying to, once again, I think it was D-Day Cobra who said it on his Geeks and Gamers channel. Maybe they're trying to get Zers to just condition them to accept that losing money is just part of this game, that someone else will pay for it and that it'll be fine. That there could be some truth in that. That one I don't know, but I could see why he thought that.
Well, I think there's a total disconnect from these old, kind of the old guard of the business people running these old networks, thinking, well, as a new young generation, they'll keep watching our old school television programs and our old broadcasting networks. They're not watching the old broadcasting networks anymore. I know we've heard this before, but yeah, they've moved to places like YouTube or, whatever social media platforms, the new network news. if you look at, and we're not going to get political here, but if you look at the election night coverage ratings in just period, you look at the list of who drew ratings on election night, it's not cable television, it's not CBS, ABC, NBC, the classic networks, and that would go for general programming, right? Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're not growing up on that because it's been gone for so long. It's not even, I wouldn't even say streaming is necessarily in the broader sense, like Netflix. Yeah, you got Netflix it has a lot of viewership, right? But there's so many new independent channels and personalities, and yes, some of the, quote unquote influencers are really stupid, and TikTok is filling emergency rooms around the country from people that are dumb enough to try and follow trends and do stupid things and get hurt. There's a lot of bad side to that, but there's also a lot of great
Well,
side
natural
to
selection is a good thing.
yeah, but
sometimes.
you have the rise of a new independent media as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The ability to educate oneself and actually
Right.
get
Oh
informed.
yeah, I remind my kid of that all the time, especially when he asks me how to do something I don't know. It's like, you got YouTube, go look up how to do it. You know. Action Com is curious about our feelings on Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Well, we covered it on the morning show, so I kind of gave my feelings on it. I thought the trailer looked okay. I was more it was more of a relief that it didn't have a slowed down pop song in it. But what did you guys think? CC, what did you think of the new trailer?
I was halfway through watching it, and then I got distracted by something else, and I can't even remember what I got distracted by, and I haven't finished watching it yet. But I did notice it's not Dead Reckoning Part 2 now. It's not, there's no longer a 2-part
it's
thing.
Final
They dropped
Reckoning,
it.
it's called.
Yeah.
That title is based on a compromise between Tom Cruise and Paramount. I'll get to that when it's my turn.
I mean, go for it. I'm just it looks to me like they finally they got the memo and just tried to make it its own movie instead of trying to tell people that they have to watch part 1 first. And if that's the case, then it's a good move.
I think that they were
watch it.
I think they were unfortunate with the previous one. I thought it was some people complain about it. I thought it was a pretty good movie. They released it a week before Barbenheimer. There's a lot of stuff that I would have done differently if I were them. But overall, it's a good movie, and I think later it was on Netflix and a lot of other streaming services that people saw it. So maybe some more people are aware of it. I don't know how much is it really going to make a difference that it's Final Reckoning. Maybe they're just trying to say that it's sort of the last Mission Impossible movie, which I don't even know if it is, but they're sort of hinting that that's the case, and I guess maybe it'll get some people to pay attention to it. It's fine what they did. I can't blame them completely for what they did, but I don't know if it's going to help them one way or another. Trailer looks okay though.
There you go. Nick, sounded like you had the most to say about it.
I did enjoy the trailer. I thought it looked really good. Now, I do have some skepticism outside of how it will do in the box office. Some people are thinking it was sandwiched in between a lot of other movies, and then admit that I think come May that we'll find out how much truth there is into it. I actually don't think so. And trust me, if anyone should be, and I say that as someone who really enjoys these movies, I'm not gonna play favorites and act like it's just going to make all the money. I originally thought it was going to make more money, and I was clearly wrong. Now, it did do much better overseas, yeah. However, in the U.S., I just think there was just less interest that time around. We'll see if that heightens back up or not, or if it'll just be the same as the last one. Now, as far as the title, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, that title came up as a compromise between Tom Cruise and Paramount, because Paramount want, I don't know what the exact title they're leaning on, but they want to call it something else with the last, like they just want to call it like the last one in general. But Tom Cruise said that's too misleading.
Probably the last mission or something like that.
Yeah. He said they want to call it, he didn't like, apparently Tom Cruise didn't like how they were wanting to call it something more finality based. And he said that will mislead the crowd, especially since I may want to do more movies after if this one does well. So this title seems like they kept a little bit of the previous title while saying, okay, well, it's the Final Reckoning from, I guess you could say, maybe the previous mission, Dead Reckoning. So it's I guess that to me is like, okay, so that was like the agreed on title rather than just make it look out and outright that it's completely done after this. Because I know Cruise is not done with this franchise should it do well, but he's holding out hope that this one does well. But no, we gotta wait and see on that. As for how it'll do, I don't know. I mean, ask me come March and April, and I'll have a better answer how I think it'll do.
All right. Sounds good. ActionCom says, did Nicole Kidman make a dig at Martin Scorsese? I don't know. Did she? This is the first I'm hearing about it.
News to me.
Let me see here. What we got? Nicole Kidman. Martin wants Scorsese to do a film with women. Well, he kind of did. Wasn't that what that fancy pants fucking movie with
There was a woman in The Departed.
yeah, there was. Well, he did that other movie years ago with what's his face, the guy who's in all the fancy movies, My Left Foot and shit. What the hell's his name?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, it was like a Victorian era film or something.
No,
like that.
the one that Gangs of New York.
No, a different one. But before that. Oh God, which one am I thinking of here? That seemed like a flowery chick flicky kind of movie. Age of Innocence. Thank you, Brian. Wasn't that chick flicky enough for her?
Wait, Age of Innocence was Martin Scorsese?
Yeah.
Man, that movie is shit.
That's what I'm saying. Leave him alone, lady. Let him be.
I mean, it's not his wheelhouse. I never even knew it was him. I always thought that movie was annoying, and now it's like I can't believe it's him. I'm kind of embarrassed for him.
Yeah, no, leave him alone. Let him make his guy movies. I don't want Martin Scorsese to try and make no female movie. No. Fuck off, Nicole. She's just saying she wants to be in a Martin Scorsese movie, and he probably won't hire her.
With Nicole Kidman, I historically always would have said fuck on.
Right, but I don't know. She seems like a very annoying person to me personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who seems normal?
Annoying.
High
no,
maintenance.
not normal at all.
Who's annoying?
I think Nicole Kidman is in real life very annoying.
Oh, she probably is. I remember seeing a video of her promoting eating bugs a few years ago. I was like, oh, so you're one of Klaus Schwab's minions. Okay, nice.
You're one of those.
She has a very intense look about her. I think it would take a lot of energy.
All I know is every time I'm at an AMC and I see her come on the screen, a lot of people groan.
That's funny.
I agree. She is kind of.
Again.
I mean, she's a decent actress, but yeah, I don't know.
20 years ago. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. What the fuck is Martin Scorsese going to put her in?
I don't know. I also think, and this may not be PC to say, I think she's gotten too many operations done.
That too. Well, yeah, that's the other thing on that AMC thing. You can tell they're like digitally making her face look younger. And yeah, I think she did win for that Curly and Rogue. So he's actually won women awards before. So suck on that, Nicole. Like, no. I'm just, yeah. I'm somebody who's like, leave these guys alone, especially these old guys who are still making semi-decent movies. I don't care what you say about The Irishman. It's still better than most of the crap that came out of Hollywood in the last 5-10 years.
I agree.
And I'm sorry, Wolf of Wall Street was one of the best movies of the last.
That was a good movie.
I mean, it was just. I mean,
I didn't see the latest one.
Goodfellas only better. Like,
I didn't see the latest one. I can't even remember the name of it. The one where with the Native Americans. I admit I kind of
the
didn't
Flower
see
Moon
them.
one. It was okay. For some people, it might be more watchable than The Irishman because I think it's a tad shorter. But it does lean. It's probably the wokest Martin Scorsese will ever get. But it's not like it isn't technically a true story, so you can't say that it's not. How do you put it? Because the whole story revolves around these guys marrying native women because they gave them all this land, on their preserve, and then they find out that the land is actually rich with oil. So a bunch of these guys try to marry these native women so they can have claims to the oil. That's the basic outline of the film, if that makes sense.
I guess.
So you can see how that can lean into modernism. But it's like a movie if you'd have made it 20 years ago, it'd have won all the Oscars.
I understand.
Could have been like, oh my God, it's so provocative, but I can't believe that Martin Scorsese's taking on. That's another thing. I think she got nominated too. So what the fuck is Nicole talking about? Because I think she's one of the only ones who got nominated for anything out of that movie was the native main actress. Yeah. Anyway, are we supposed to call them indigenous now? I don't even fucking know what the hell we're supposed to call them anymore.
On the list of reasons why I'm not watching baseball anymore. Where's my Cleveland Indians?
That's the problem. You can't even say Indians anymore because then it's like, which Indians do you mean? Yeah.
Well, the more you adjust their phases, the more you let them control the conversation. So I don't
have so much of a problem with the Native Americans, but like, yeah, it's still
Indians. They'll think a lot of Indians say, dude, 64% of Native Americans voted, let's just say, the way that one party will not like.
Well, and I'm not a historian. I sucked at history in school, but didn't they call them Indians to begin with? Because when the Spanish or whoever it was that got over here, they looked at them and they looked like the East Indian people or whatever it was. Wasn't that something to do with that?
That I don't know.
I don't remember. Somebody in the chat will know better than me.
I mean, in history class, they told me it's because they thought they landed in India. But
that's what it was. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
I do know a Native American who lives a few minutes on the street, and he has the hugest collection. I mean, huge collection of Washington Redskins memorabilia. Someone's not happy that they changed that name. Just saying.
Well, no, a lot of the natives don't think it was, or they find it pointless. And not only that, the original logo is based on an actual person, from my understanding. Same kind of thing with like some of these other ones they tried changing and erasing.
Person whose family was quite happy to have him there.
Yeah. In some cases, even got residuals for these things, right? Like,
yeah. Exactly.
So, God forbid.
Give me my money.
Yeah. So let's see what else you got. You guys are doing great here, giving us some topics, though. That helps a lot. Trust me. There was just not other than politics. I didn't really think you guys wanted to go into more meltdowns and shit. Like, who gives a fuck that Whoopi Goldberg's going on a sex strike? Like, does anybody fucking care?
She's in her 70s, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's getting on.
Dude, I was gonna say
maybe she's still
seriously. She's like she is older than the cobwebs in the first Raiders of the Lost Ark movie. No one's gonna care about that.
She's quite large as well.
Oh yeah,
probably
that
lot
boulder's
more.
got webs.
Yeah. Look, my take on that whole situation is, if you take out the people that you shouldn't be having sex with and only leave the ones that you should be, we might all be a lot better off because we won't make so many mistakes. It makes everything so much easier. You see somebody who's like actually looking to have a serious relationship, maybe have kids one day, and they're serious. They're probably not a bad person to look into seriously, because all the people who you shouldn't look into seriously, they've already taken themselves off the market. I don't know if that's too spicy of a take, but
could use more spice.
Yeah, I like spicy foods. Like, just feed me the jalapenos raw, and I'll stuff them down my throat. I might regret it later.
Grave said in the chat, Chicago Blackhawks are next. Oh yeah, any day now. I keep telling people in the area, they're like, "Oh, he's going to be." I'm like, "Yeah, it is. You allowed the precedent for 2 other teams. They will happen." That's the problem when you allow these things to happen. They're never satisfied. Even if you're trying to do it in the process of trying to look nice to someone, now you've set this precedent, and they are just going to keep on doing more. They will never be satisfied. And even let's just say it does happen with the Blackhawks. Let's just pretend that it does. They're going to make up a new reason for something else and then change that thing. That they if there's a reason it doesn't exist, they'll make it on the fly. So that the Blackhawks line needs to be held hard. Like it doesn't matter what emotional blackmail arguments used. Enough is enough. Oh, and also bring back Chief Wahoo and the Washington Redskins. I will
Yeah.
man. I need a Chief Wahoo hat while we're on it. Anyone in the chat want to send me one? I would greatly appreciate a Chief Wahoo hat.
You remember when kids used to go out for Halloween dressed as Indians?
Oh yeah,
That was a
absolutely.
very
Kids
popular
loved
and
it.
awesome costume.
Well, it took a lot of work. You actually had to commit
Yeah.
to the part, the face paint, doing the outfit. You really
Oh, it's not good
have
to dress like that anymore?
Cultural appropriation.
Yeah,
Oh.
I don't believe in
You don't
cultural
want
appropriation.
your culture to spread and be adopted by anybody else but
Well, then
yourselves.
Can I still be a cowboy though? Can I be a cowboy?
Yeah, how do non-Mexicans eat Mexican food then?
Oh no, if you're not Mexican, you're not allowed to eat Mexican food.
Yeah, do Italians only eat pizza? Like that stuff is all a bunch of made up crap.
Well, yeah. ActionCom sends in another 10 and says a bunch of math scientists got together to find out who the worst actor was. They released their findings in the article, Who's the Worst Actor in Movie History, a Statistical Analysis. Well, I brought this up, and I'm not so sure I follow with all the things they used for stats, but I will say this about their final list. It does have an awful lot of women on it. Let's take a look at their final findings here. This is kind of interesting. So they took a bunch of aggregators and decided that this is the ranking of the worst actors of all time. Coming in at the bottom, you got Mickey Rourke. Yeah, I can see
Really?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Jennifer Lopez.
Sucks. The worst.
That's a good
Hard.
pick.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. She's the queen of the divorces and she's the queen of the bad acting.
And you got Val Kilmer coming in next. With Red Planet, Batman Forever,
see,
Twixt,
I
and
feel
Seven
like
Below.
he's
being
had
I
the
like
rated
Val
best
I
Kilmer.
disagree here.
I
I
don't
want
know
to push
why
back
Batman
You're
on
gonna put
that.
Forever's on
Arnold
there,
Schwarzenegger on there too.
Val Kilmer's a good actor. I don't whoever.
Yeah.
I like him in not just Batman Forever. I liked him in Top Gun as well. As
He made a lot of
Iceman.
shit films though, but I don't understand
Yeah.
why Batman Forever's on here.
I don't
You
care
can
if they're
make-
shit
but you
films,
could-
they're
Yeah,
entertaining.
even if the movie sucks, doesn't make the
Well,
actor bad.
He's
The
a
way
good
that- okay,
actor.
so
He
okay,
wasn't-
okay,
he-
time
he-
out. All right, I knew this was gonna happen. I should have just started from the
Well,
fucking
Nicolas
start.
Cage is on
All right,
there.
Everybody,
What the heck?
shush. All right, this is how they figured it out, and this is where you guys got to understand. This is how they figured it out. First, they went by online movie ratings, so by IMDb and all that kind of crap. They went by the worst rated films with the leading actor there. Then they took box office success, those who had the worst box office success. Then they added in who won Razzies. Here's where I don't agree, because the Razzies are a big fucking joke. Okay, because there's a lot of movies and actors that win Razzies that don't deserve them. So that one's where I kind of go, yeah. And then, so they took all that together, as you see here at the top, and that's where they get this from. So this is from critics and shit too, guys. So keep that in mind. All right, so we'll leave Val Kilmer as a shouldn't probably be on the list. I get that. Halle Berry's on the list. Again, another person who's made a lot of shit films. You guys got to keep that in mind. She's only had a few hits.
See, even the movie that she's been that she's good, I don't find her good. With Val Kilmer, good movies and bad movies, I can.
People
find
don't even
him to
remember
be...
the movie that she
thank
won
you,
the
Emilia
Oscar
Clarke.
for.
He was great in Tombstone as well, and I was gonna say The Saint before we went on, but that's the thing. Halle Berry in good movies is still not good. She's never been the thing that she added so much. All it's just been is Halle Berry saying, "What about my Star movie? You
Yeah, I
don't
don't
deserve
agree
your
with a lot
Star
of this.
movie."
But anyway, then you got Nicolas Cage on here, which I mean, is that
disagree with
fair?
That's
part.
ridiculous.
No, it's not fair. That man
Nicolas
is committed
Cage is
to
an
the bit.
A tier. He can actually genuinely act at a high
See,
level.
I had to slightly
See, 'cause a
disagree.
lot of the
He's
movies
an
that they're-
A+ tier.
I do like
All
Halle
right.
Berry. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like I'm gonna
You can like
disagree
her,
with
Well,
but
you.
she has a very
she's
nice
done
figure.
a lot of shit films, and she shouldn't have been playing Storm. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Okay, she was in some shit films. I'll give her that. But I like her. I don't know.
Everybody and I agreed with said that Angela Bassett should have been playing Storm.
Yeah.
Angela Bassett is a good actress. I can't argue with that.
And then they got Nicolas Cage, like we said. Then we got Cuba Gooding Jr. Well,
Uh,
they're like fuck radio. Yeah.
if I see Cuba Gooding Jr. in a movie, I'm interested. At least I used to.
I don't like. They got Chill Factor, Daddy Day Camp, Sacrifice, and The Devil's Tomb on here. Yeah, that's the problem. He did hit. See, that's the other thing they're counting on here is like straight to video crap. I think that shit should be completely left out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Daddy Daycare is
The
a
worst
classic.
part about it is that when you look at these lists,
the straight to video third film or whatever it is, but yeah,
those movies once again, Cuba Gooding's been good in good movies, and I that's so far I'm kind of like mixed feelings on it. So it's like, yeah, there's some bad names, but those bad names, even in good movies, don't save it. But Val Kilmer.
Well, that's the thing is these guys winning an Oscar like Halle Berry and Cuba and Nicolas Cage, shouldn't that just automatically keep them from this list?
Yes, it does. It does
I would say like that kind of ultimately disqualifies you if you've won an Oscar.
Reminds me of Robin Williams too, right?
This is not a logical list overall because they're like, these are the worst actors and actresses. Okay, but you guys show like.
Well, CC just brought up a good point because Robin Williams, traditionally his career, he's only got a few hits. Most people don't even really think about that.
He was a little desperate for cash from all the divorces, right?
Yeah, he did some shit movies there for a while. Let's not forget Flubber. Let's not forgive him for shit like that. Like, what's that other one he did with the football one or whatever? Like where he was the nerd in it. I can't remember now, but yeah, that was a bad one too.
He has a long list of lower tier movies.
Yeah, he did some that were not very good.
Yeah,
but
in his defense, anything with Robin Williams in it's going to be better because he's in it. But
why is he not on this list then? That's my yeah. See, I can't imagine that just because of Aladdin and Mrs. Doubtfire, you know, because those are probably two highest grossing films. I would imagine.
But I mean, it's the same thing for Nicolas Cage. I don't care how bad the movie is. If he's in the movie, it's a better movie.
Yeah, but that's the thing with Nicolas Cage. They're counting all his shit movies he did to pay for his taxes. Those shouldn't even count. And if that's the case, where the fuck is Bruce Willis on this list? Were you feeling sorry for him and you didn't want to bring him up? Because, yeah, if you're going to count Nick, you got to count Bruce. Like, you can't. And Wesley Snipes. Where's Wesley? But Wesley, he just went to prison. That's right. Yeah, isn't that funny how they put the black guy in jail?
Right, again. And he did nothing wrong on top of that.
But here's one that actually deserves to be on this list. Demi fucking Moore. If there was ever an actress who was skating on her looks and sexuality alone for like 20 years, it was Demi fucking Moore.
Cannot carry a movie, no matter how many times they try to prop her up.
Showgirls is probably her best, or not Showgirls, Striptease is probably her best film.
Like, oh, gee, I wonder why, Tom. And even that's not just saying much.
That's what I mean. That's not saying much. G.I. Jane, maybe? That's more or less a butt of a joke now. Like,
it's fine, but I would say there are things in that movie that are good, but she's the weak link in that movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, people are saying she's been great in The Substance, and that's fine. Yeah, Ghost. Yeah, that was her biggest film, probably. Honestly, she's the weakest link in Ghost.
I'd say overall she's fine in that one. I mean, she's drastically better than J-Lo. J-Lo has sucked in absolutely everything.
I guarantee you could have put anybody but Barbara Streisand in that role in Ghost, and they'd have done better than fucking Demi Moore.
I agree.
All you had to do was believe that Patrick Swayze loved this woman so much, right? Like, that's the thing. And like, Demi Moore is not the type of woman who's going to have a problem moving on with her life. It just doesn't seem that way.
I didn't like her haircut, but even with her haircut, she still looked pretty good in the movie.
Oh yeah, she's always been a hell of a like good-looking woman. Like, that's the thing. Like I said, she was sold on her sexuality for years, right? Like, I mean, that's what she was known for. I mean, that movie put her on a completely different level than she probably should have been on. That's the sad part. People forget how fucking big Ghost was. It was the biggest movie of 1990.
I remember.
Fucking huge. Like $300 million at the box office back then. Yeah.
Holy crud.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on here, we've got Steven Seagal. Look, I get it. He's got his fans, but I can understand why he's on this list. He does not know how to act.
He
It's a
does.
good
I
pick, yeah.
you know Steven Seagal is not a great actor, but he's a great entertainer because I love Above the Law. I love Under Siege. Out for a Kill. Oh, it's on the list. I know. I like Out for a Kill, especially how they when they release the movie posters. Steven Seagal is out for justice. That would be how they would list the titles as when
Out
Steven
for
Seagal
justice.
is. It was hilarious. Yes, he's not a great
Steven
actor,
Seagal
but
is the executioner.
I love Steven Seagal's old movies. Now, yes, he's a terrible
Steven
actor.
Seagal is killing your mother.
Steven Seagal is Under Siege.
4.
Boy.
I'm surprised he hasn't tried to pull another one out of his ass.
Oh, I know,
All right, we got next in line here, Sharon Stone. Look, that's a weird one. I mean, does she belong on this list necessarily? The movies that they list here are Dreamed of Africa, While She Was Out, Elvis Has Left the Building, and Bless the Child.
See, here's the weird thing with Sharon Stone. Okay, she's been obviously in plenty good and bad, but she's never really been, to me, as far as the stuff that's good. She's never been like the weak link or the highlight. She's just kind of
Right.
there.
Yeah, I don't see why she's on this list. She's a
I don't get why she's on this list
stable
either.
actress in a sense of
She got by.
she's always going to turn in a decent performance. Yeah, Casino,
Yeah.
I mean, she's amazing in.
She's really
Right?
good in
Like-
Casino.
She almost gives Michelle Pfeiffer a run for her money in fucking Scarface and Casino.
She's. I think that it's a
She probably does
comparable
a better,
performance.
yeah, actually much better performance, really.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the thing at the end where she's kind of crawling with it, trying to get the money or whatever it is that, that just the whole process of her character, that required real acting. You know what? I'm going to go on a limb here. I think that Sharon Stone can put in good performances with the right director. I think when you have like a Verhoeven, when you have like Martin Scorsese, she delivers. There may have been things that she's done.
Oh, I was
like,
reading Kim Basinger's. I wasn't reading Sharon Stone's.
Well,
Sharon Stone, they have Diabolic, Sliver, Basic Instinct 2, and A Different Loyalty.
well, Basic Instinct 2 came after like she was already
And
she was much older then. Somebody came with a ton of
Diabolique
money.
and Sliver actually did well at the box office from my memory too. But okay, anyway, you were saying, I'm sorry, Price.
I guess what I'm saying is that Basic Instinct 2 was a movie that they just offered her a lot of money to come back, and she said yes because it was a paycheck. And I think that during the years that you could consider her prime or whatever it is, when working with good directors, I think she put in good performances. That's my
No,
opinion.
I agree. I don't understand why she's on this list. Then Kim Basinger, who was the next one up. Another one where, again, I read out there, I Dreamed of Africa, While She Was Out, Elvis Has Left the Building, and Bus. Again, I'm stretching to remember the last time Kim Basinger brought in a bad performance or was in an overly bad film. Like, I think she's a very decent actress. I don't understand why she's on this list. Like, and how Nicole Kidman is not. Like, if anything, you put Nicole Kidman in her spot right there.
Megan Fox has never been good in anything.
We skipped over Megan Fox. Why? Because
Absolutely
she's never been a
horrendous.
good actress. She's literally in every movie just because she's got a big ass and nice tits. Like, let's be real.
She is runner up to J-Lo.
She is
for
the
me.
worst
She is-
April O'Neil in the history of April O'Neils, and that
Oh,
includes the black
dude.
one from Mutant Mayhem.
Agreed. She is
No,
not
come on.
April
She's better
O'Neil.
than the Mutant Mayhem
No,
one.
she's a fucking retard in those movies. Oh my God, she made me want to fucking throw shit at the TV through the. You guys, I wish I had a video camera on me when I was watching the second one, because the first movie's bad enough, but the second one, everybody's like, "Oh, you should like that one. It has Bebop and Rocksteady." It's like, no, they ruined all those fucking characters, especially Krang. Like, what the fuck is up with Krang? Like, first of all, Krang is this sniveling, fucking slimy little thing who's useless without his body, and you got Brad Garrett doing his voice. It's like, who's the dumb fuck who didn't go, well, clearly we got to get Steve Buscemi in here to play fucking Krang. Like, that's first and foremost. Secondly, the story is just asinine, and they amped up all the fucking stupidity. And the first movie was stupid as it was because they were trying to cram Megan Fox into every nook and cranny they could of that movie. It's like April came up with this. April came up with that. April saved the turtles. April named the turtles. Fuck, I'm surprised April didn't teach the Ninja Turtles how to fucking do ninja. Right? Like, that's... And then you got Tony fucking Shalhoub playing Splinter? What the fuck is this?
I've only seen those movies once.
Mutant Mayhem might even be worse. That's the problem.
I've only seen those movies once, but I want to tell you the Mutant Mayhem annoyed me more than those movies.
Sadly, you're right. That's what I was just saying. Like, at the end of the day, Mutant Mayhem might actually be worse. It might actually take a bigger dump, because at least with the original, the Bay films, the Bay produced films, you could at least chalk it up to these guys just had no fucking clue what they were doing. They just took the concept of the Ninja Turtles and ran with it. With the Mutant Mayhem film, it almost feels like people who understand the Turtles a bit, but they just aren't fans to begin. Kind of like with Kevin Smith and He-Man, is what it reminds me of. When Seth Rogen took on that Mutant Mayhem thing, it's like, you were never really a fan of this shit, were you? And he had the same kind of fucking stories as Kevin Smith did. So it's like, okay, so you just see this as a big toy commercial. That's all you see it as. Great. That's just what we fucking need. Another Kevin Smith.
Seth Rogen shouldn't be given IPs at all.
At least the Bay people, they were trying with it. Like, I almost would rather go back and say, okay, give me this thing with the mutants coming from outer space thing again. Like, let's go back and see what that's all about. Because at least gets... Look, there's more weird batshit crazy stuff in the comics like that. Honestly, if you want to get technical, like, if the mutagen comes from the other... The creatures that Krang is based on, they would technically come from outer space then. I mean, if they wanted to dive into that way of it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Because number one on this list is somebody who only has a single name, and I'm not surprised that they're number one on the list. And it's Madonna. And it's because she's only made like 3 good movies in her entire life. And they're not mainly because of her. Nobody's got shit to say about the Material Girl.
I don't know. I mean, she's not the greatest actress, but she has a certain, back in the day, had a certain presence. She was good in, like, Desperately Seeking Susan. Thought she was okay in that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. She's got a few early films that were all right. She's great. And
she was in Who's That Girl? I thought that
Who's That Girl's okay, but Dick Tracy's the one that I would say is my favorite with her.
Right, Dick Tracy probably
anybody could have played that role. Like,
just another mediocre musician trying to act mediocrely in some movies.
The thing is that, I have to at least give her credit. Pop music has never been like the main style that I like, but for the 80s, for what she wanted to do, I thought that she did her albums, she did her pop, and she wanted different styles each time, and she kept changing and reinventing herself. It's, I guess, on a marketing level and even some of her early music, it's okay for whatever it's supposed to be. It's not, again, it's not, when I think of styles of music that I prefer, it's not at the top of my list. But if already you forced me to listen to like pop music, actually, I like Madonna better.
The first 20 years of Madonna are right. She had some of the best producers and writers working with her. I mean,
I like her stuff better than Taylor Swift. I would listen to her over Taylor Swift. Over anything really. Like, give me like most of the crap that we hear that's like contemporary now. I would probably prefer to listen to her, and I think she's better than Britney Spears as well. That Britney Spears is basically the reason why the whole industry is shit today, because we kind of let that slide.
Basically, her last good song was "Beautiful Stranger," the one for Austin Powers. That was like her last good song.
I think that her last album, I don't know if that's the same, but it's probably around the same time.
Might even be.
Ray of Light.
I was gonna say, I think it's a Ray of Light album, actually. Yeah.
There was one that was, again, it's a certain style, but that Confessions of a Dance Floor is, at least for whatever genre it's going. Yeah. I thought it was pretty well done. But after that, I don't even know what she released anymore. I think that
that's what I'm saying. Like, she hit a point where it's like, no, all of her songs were like music and shit like that. Whereas, that was one of the last good skits Saturday Night Live ever had. Did you ever see that one? Where they do the music skit where you finally realize it's just one note over and over and over again.
I don't
Because the
remember
chick just
that
comes
one.
out. I can't remember which chick it was. I think it was the blonde chick that's always with the
Amy
30
Poehler?
Rock chick. Yeah, Amy Poehler. I think she comes out and she's pretending to be Madonna and she's like doing the down. And she comes up and she pulls up a little Casio keyboard and she just goes down, 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 down. Because it's the same note over and over. And she's like, music makes the people. Yeah. It was like one of the last good skits on Saturday Night Live. It's like, it's funny. Major Blazer brings up Body of Evidence. That's one of the reasons they cite here as their bad movies. And I'm like thinking that made money, I think. So I don't know. They got the next best thing, Body of Evidence, Swept Away, and Shanghai Surprise. Now, those last two, I think, are notoriously the two of the biggest flops in history up until recent years, if I'm not mistaken. Especially Swept Away. Because that was the one that she made on that island or whatever it was that cost, I can't remember how much it was, but it was her and Guy Ritchie movie.
Swept away.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that shit.
How
How did Nicole Kidman not wind up on that list? That is bullshit.
No, she should not have been on that list. Neither
There's a
should
few other
Sharon
actors. I'm
Stone.
like, where the
Sharon
fuck
Stone,
are they?
Sharon Stone should have not been on that list. Like I said, there's a lot of things where I see her in it and she's just kind of like
How is
she
Pattinson not on
she
that
gets
list?
the job done. She's serviceable. I don't get why she was there either. Val Kilmer should have not been there either.
Yeah, I don't understand why Val's
I mean,
there. That's
by the logic of
someone
the
mentioned in the
list,
chat, I may have missed his name earlier. I apologize, but someone mentioned Zendaya. Yeah, I could say it.
Yeah.
We've seen her with enough directors, enough writers. We see her in good movies. I would say her best performance, but I guess you could say her least worst was probably in No Way Home, where she was a lot more of a likable
You're probably
girlfriend.
right. Yeah, I agree
and
with you.
unlike
She
the
should be on
first
that
two
list.
movies,
Yeah.
first two movies, she was just this really condescending, bitch. Whereas the third movie, she was a lot more likable. I'll give her credit in that third movie. She was, actually being his girlfriend, trying to, be, there for him to better himself and to help him be of Peter Parker's interest. I'll give her credit there. But outside of that one outlier, everything else, it's Zendaya. Not be one thing if it was an actor who kind of plays the same every movie, but they're entertaining. But everything else, she has not been entertaining. I could forgive if you're entertaining. You're basically the same role. I mean, why do you think I like the amount of Arnold movies I like, or Stallone, or Van Damme, or Charles Bronson?
I was just going to say Jean-Claude Van Damme. I mean, I can't
Van Damme.
Surprised he's not on the
actor.
list. I'm honestly surprised he's not on the list.
But
He is a
legendary.
very great actor.
But I love those movies.
Yeah.
No, but I don't know if this is what you were going to say, CC, but I think if you're going to count the Razzies, then you have to count the Oscars for something. You can't have one and not count the other. I don't know if that's what you were going to say, but you were about to say something else otherwise.
I was just going to say there's a difference between whether someone's a good actor and whether they're entertaining, right? Because Jean-Claude Van Damme is one of the most entertaining actors of all time. He's not actually a good actor. He just plays himself in movies over and over again.
I mean,
I'd
put The Rock on that list too. Thank you, Admiral Adam, because everybody knows that's somebody like, look, I don't hate The Rock. I have no distaste or dislike for him whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I just look at him and I go, everybody's pretending he's the next coming of Sylvester Stallone and Schwarzenegger, and he's not pulling it off.
No,
the only time he has any hits, as I always point out, is when he's in an ensemble cast. If he comes out with his own movies, like look at this Red One movie coming out this weekend. I bet you $5 it's going to bomb.
I did like the rundown with him and Sean William Scott. I felt like he showed some promise in there, not as
that was a bigger hit on video, though,
but
it
was a bigger hit on video. It was a much bigger hit on video. I think it either it underperformed or was a slight bomb.
Because I think they did a sequel to it without either one of the actors playing the roles. But yeah,
like the video equivalent.
Because I remember when it came out. Yeah.
What was the other one that came out 10 years ago? And was it called San Andreas? I can't remember what it was called. Someone correct me in the chat. I did like him in that movie. Once again, and that's fine.
That's another one of his movies that's probably his highest grossing, but it really isn't that big of a deal in comparison to.
It was San Andreas. Okay, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's like his. I think that between that and Black Adam are his two highest grossing films at the box office, but they cost so much money, they still didn't really make all that much.
Yeah, right? There should never been a Black Adam movie. Full stop. That was one of the
Yeah.
dumbest ideas they could have ever done, was make a movie on Black Adam. Like
Well, it
Joker,
was
okay, you
especially
can
after
make
the
it.
way Shazam played. If once they realized that Shazam wasn't going to be a big hit, they should have rethought that whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I say that's someone who liked the first Shazam movie. I never saw a second one. I thought the first one was a good fun time.
It
I
should have
like
been.
Mark.
Here's what they should have done, and this would make sense. I wonder if you guys agree or disagree. I think it only would have made sense had they just shit canned a Black Adam movie and had Black Adam been the big baddie played by The Rock in Shazam 2,
Would have been
making
better.
Shazam 2 a bigger deal. And I bet you Shazam 2 would have grossed twice as much as the first film.
Oh
What do
yeah,
you
it
guys
would
think?
have helped. It would have definitely helped a lot, especially since the movie already had a lot going against it, considering it was announced way after that. Hey, all these movies you're about to see essentially don't matter. That would have definitely helped. I don't think it would have helped it drastically, but I think it would have nudged it a little bit. It would have nudged it a little bit.
I think that it would have turned out better than both did separately, is my point. But I
Oh,
don't know.
absolutely. I obviously, yeah. That's of course.
Bryce, you think any
Yeah.
differently, or
No,
you don't like to
not really.
play in speculation like that? Okay. You and CC were quiet, so I figured I'm not going to push you.
Well,
All
what
right.
about if he was in,
I think if they would have, instead of Shazam 2 being the way
right,
it was
if
and
they
doing
would
a
have
Black Adam movie on its
combined it
own,
with,
yeah.
it would have had more of a chance, because then what happens is that you had some people that went to see Shazam 1, and then Shazam 2 comes out, and they're like
Exactly.
adding Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but also at that point in time, they hadn't decided yet that they're killing the Snyderverse or whatever it was. They brought back Henry Cavill. If that movie would have done well, and let's say at the end Henry Cavill arrives at the end of Shazam, I think that then maybe some people would have gone to have seen it with The Rock and Henry as a cameo at the end. Maybe it would have had a chance.
I'll simplify this even further. One of the things I love most about like modern media is that if a movie's good, people will go and see it. And if it's not, they don't. Like it actually feels like it's working in that way nowadays. Because word of mouth is so incredibly powerful now. People will find out if something's worth seeing, like within that first weekend, if not before it. They'll figure it out and they'll respond. So I mean, I like your idea, but even just hey, if it was a good movie, it would have made more money, and that's not all. That historically has not always been the case, but it seems like it is now, and that's my glass half full take on that. It's like, you know what? Quality sells. Maybe one day they'll make more quality. We can hope. Maybe.
Yeah. And then Joe Pat 87 says the future of media and even entertainment is decentralized and interactive. You guys are proving this, as you pointed out. Yeah.
I
we are the
agree
new
with
media.
that. And you know what?
Yeah.
I think that's a very good thing. And because everything is a lot more decentralized, yes, you'll have fewer colossal, mega, gigantic successes because of it. But I feel like the successes that do happen, and obviously that success is subjective, they'll be a lot more beneficial to those whom are involved in whatever that may be. So better than a lot of these things where there's this mega gigantic entity putting out a big product, and let's just say big product does well. Well, usually the creators or the core writer or something, they're the ones who see the least out of it, rather than the 800 other people who get to see the most the most out of it. So I do like that aspect of it. So I feel like this is definitely a better outlet for creativity. You get more bang for your buck of it. Even the amount of mainstream successes will be fewer, and that's fine. I feel like that should encourage people to go seek things out rather than just expect to have things put in front of you, because that's kind of been I guess you could say, the model standard for years, as people kind of just consume what's put in front of them, which isn't bad. I'm just saying it's just a thing that's been going on for decades. having people get motivated, go out there and seek things is great. And I mean, Tom, I don't know how you saw it out music, but or even indie movies, but for me, I love doing the blind buys back in the day. And yeah, it would be unfortunate if you bought something that wasn't good, whether it's a movie or an album. But man, how much more rewarding was it when you found that thing and you loved it? That's the joy of this thing. Now with the internet, you don't have to buy it, but you can at least check it out. And if you like it, hopefully you buy it. I think that's a great route to go. And that should motivate people to want to make their stuff great as well. And then once again, it keeps the market very competitive. Because if we want to have great things, we need a competitive market.
Yeah, no, my whole life is a blind buy.
See? Perfect. Well, then you get it. You get why it's so much rewarding. Like what's one of your best blind buys that you got of a movie, whether it's VHS, DVD, whatever? What was one of the ones you're like, oh, I didn't see this, I haven't heard anything about it, and then you watch like, oh hell yeah, I'm so glad I bought this. What's one of them?
Gosh.
Just the first one that comes to mind. Just
There's
the
so
first
many.
one.
That's the problem. I mean, when I was younger, it would have been easier to answer, but like now at this stage,
Well, if you want to do, you could go 20 years ago or 5 years ago. I'm just whichever is the first thing that comes to mind. What's the movie you're like, ooh, what are you?
Gosh. I mean, of course, we had rental stores back in the day too. That also made it a little different.
Oh yeah, that definitely.
See, like now, like the thing is, for longest time, I was just buying almost every movie that came out. So like, I got tons of movies that I watch all the time that I've never seen before. Some are better than others. Like just recently, I'd never seen. Here's, I guess, the best way to do it. No Way Out with Kevin Costner and Gene Hackman and Sean Young. I'd never seen it before, but I just watched it this last week here, and yeah, it's pretty good. Great twist ending to it, and yeah, I thought it was a nice blind buy, I guess you could call it. So yeah, so that's the best one I can think of as far as recent ones.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd have to dig for a while in my memory hole. You know how that gets. Yeah. All right, well, unless there's anybody who has anything more to say about that, let's move on here to Patrick Robinson's next chat, and he's got $4.99 to ask, or to say actually, Sophie Turner has been confirmed to play Lara Croft in a live-action TV show. Yeah, I'm kind of twisted on that one. I'm like, yeah,
I don't know if she's a good enough actress to pull this off.
Yeah, I don't know if she's quite got the chops for this.
Please keep going. Mainstream level Hollywood. Please don't stop. Please keep. I just please keep making these, going out of your way to make bad decisions. I don't want you to stop. I want you to do more.
Yeah, why? I mean, it could be worse, but it could be so much better, I guess, is the best way to respond. It could be worse,
but she's not Lara Croft.
No, not really. But I mean, at this point, Lara Croft isn't Lara Croft, so what the hell's the difference?
That's true too. That is true too. But man, this is the
fact that she's got a vagina, I think, says a lot. I mean,
wow, yeah. All I know is this movie is going to be a huge. TV show is going to be a huge bomb. They have tried with the two Angelina Jolie movies, the Netflix show that people forgot about after less than 1 week, and now live action TV show. Wow, they've made more attempts at this than Hollywood has made at attempting Steve Jobs in the cinema, and all these attempts have not stuck. How many more times are they gonna try and realize, oh crud, this is just not happening? And you know what? I'm glad that these things are bombing. I hate sounding like that because it sounds like I'm wishing failure. But when you go out of your way to make stuff like this, well, you're setting yourself up for reaping what you sow. So it makes what would be, I guess you could say, an organic form of sympathy go to, well, no, you did this to yourselves. No sympathy here anymore. Whatever. Let them burn it down. Hopefully something will replace it.
All right. Well, I mean, I think like Tomb Raider might just be one of those video game franchises that works better as a video game. It's
Maybe if
already
they
kind of
actually
a
committed to the story like it was in the game, they could get it right, but it's clear that they don't want
maybe,
to.
but I mean, the problem you have with it already is that it's already kind of a female take on Indiana Jones. That was kind of the whole
That is
gimmick to begin
exactly
with.
what it is.
And
And
when you
that's
have
fine.
something like that, it gets really difficult to translate it to film without it feeling like just a carbon copy of a carbon copy of a gender swapped carbon copy.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
that's kind of the thing I've always had with like the original Tomb Raider film. I didn't hate it, but I'm like, okay, yeah, it is. It's what it is. It's just a fancy. It's like Bond meets Indiana Jones.
At least it had a woman that
Yeah.
looked good and fit the role.
But the thing is I've never really played a lot of the video games. I think I only played like the first one or two, and I never played them all the way through or anything like that. So like my interpretation is like the movie felt like it was taking some liberties by making it more Bond meets Indiana Jones with tits than the video game was, where the video game was more straightforward, kind of like a modern Indiana Jones with tits, right? Like that's kind of what my memory is. So it's just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. They made it work for that. And I mean, if you stick with that, that might work. But it feels like with the last movie they did and with what they've been doing lately, they're really just kind of trying to dumb it
There's
down quite a
3
bit.
movies, not 2 movies. Sorry.
Yeah,
I gotta
that more
correct
recent
myself.
one
There
was
was
what's
that.
her
I
face.
forgot
Yeah.
about that one. That didn't do well either.
No, it didn't.
Bro, let it go.
That's what I'm saying. I just don't think it's a, you know, and I used to say that about Sonic, and that's the only one that I'll give a pass to because, like,
Well,
yeah,
that-
they
because
built a
got
world
it
up.
done correctly.
Well, they did it right, and they also, I didn't realize that there was this whole like world built up in the comic books and all this other shit with Sonic. And I mean, I was aware of the animated series, but I didn't realize how deep the lore was and all that kind of shit. So like, I took that, I walked that one back a little bit, but other than that, like, I stand by most of the ones I've said that just don't translate well. You just can't. There's just no way to really do it. It's like Street Fighter doesn't translate well, but Mortal Kombat does. Why? Because Mortal Kombat has a lot more deeper, richer story to it. The problem with something like Street Fighter is the story only exists to get them to fight, right? Yes, you could say the same thing about Mortal Kombat, but they've actually taken the time to go real deep into the lore, and people get into arguments with me because, like, I enjoyed that last Mortal Kombat movie, but there's people like, yeah, but they screwed this up and they screwed that up, and it's like, okay, calm down. I haven't played all 20 fucking Mortal Kombat games, right? And I had a memory of like, it depended on which character you were playing as far as the ending of the game goes. So that's where I just like, I sometimes with video game movies and people who are into gaming, I really have a hard time with that. And it's just a personal thing because some people get so hung up on certain things of the game. And I'm like, yeah, but don't those things certainly have to do with like happenstance and what you do with the game? Because to me, games are almost their own little world, right? Like, because that was the beauty of games growing up for me was like, you know, games that stuck out to me were like Episode 3 Star Wars and King Kong. Why? Because you could have alternate endings where Kong wins and Anakin wins. It's like, well, that is never going to happen in the movie, you know, but I get it. Those are games based on movies. But my point with that is that kind of lends itself to the film to where it's like, look, you just got to kind of accept the adaptation for what it is from the creators that made it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. Because what was that one that they just did on Amazon here recently where some of the video gamers weren't a big fan of it, but like some of the normies were. CC, help me out here.
You talking about Halo?
No, not Halo.
There's
The
been
other
a lot of stuff in this category
not
lately.
Borderlands. The other one. Trying to think of the name. I just had it at the tip of my tongue and I just fucking forgot it.
I do not know.
Fallout. Thank you guys. Fallout. Yeah.
Fallout. My brother-in-law is an enormous Fallout fan. He
The
didn't
same thing
hate
could
it.
be extended to The Last of Us as well.
Fallout's probably not the most egregious of them. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
It was, but more just because I thought there were some dumb writing decisions. But I enjoyed it. Like there's worse examples.
Yeah. I mean, in some of those things they can translate all right. It just depends on how the audience responds to it. But just other things I just don't feel like they're going to.
I do believe
Ever.
Tomb Raider can work. They just need someone to stop trying to add so much unnecessary complicatedness to Lara Croft. Just make her be a free spirit who goes on an adventure and find whatever missing or ancient artifact she's going for. Have her go through action along the way. It doesn't need to be a deep story. I mean, we have a great Sylvester Stallone movie on arm wrestling, for Christ's sakes. And that has more story than it needs to. But put that story aside, it's just a fun, entertaining movie. That's the thing. They want to do all these things that do not work for Lara Croft. And you don't need them there, but they feel like they need to add something there. But once again, there's just that disconnectedness again. Hollywood feels like they have to do this. Otherwise, this movie can't happen. Or to make it like it's theirs or their own. I mean, I'm sounding like that one lady from Wicked, right? This is my movie, my project. I gotta make it about me. Bitch.
Oh, that reminds me, we haven't had Cynthia this episode yet. We need to make her scene.
Oh.
Oh boy.
Contractually
Oh, that was good.
obligated.
You're erasing me, Tom.
I'm
How
erasing you.
dare you?
Is
We
she
got Lester Sand. Oh,
going-
go ahead.
saying? Is she going green face?
Yes. Lester San Jose, the Skeptic Tank, has been here for 16 months. Says, plus Madonna had vocal
Lester.
chops recent pop divas don't have. Save Mariah in her prime, Christina Aguilera. Well, that was kind of what I was going to say earlier, but we got past it. I thought Madonna was fine until she went and got singing lessons. That was when she started sounding like shit. And she was a better actress before the acting lessons. Right? Because
Yeah.
in that like
Some
mid-90s period, that's when she went and
you're
did
right
all
on
Some
that, yeah.
pretentious person's going to teach you how to sing. That's just usually not going to end well.
When
No,
you're
like
already
if-
Madonna, what the fuck are they going to teach you?
Like, are you a Broadway singer? Are you an opera singer? Like, there's some certain things in places where it's like, okay, I'll tell you. Like, okay, fine. If there's something to learn about how to sing in a certain way, but you're not an opera singer. You're singing modern pop and rock. It's like,
Well,
no,
she did it
but-
mainly because of Evita, for one, I know. And I'm like, why? And as far as like the other stuff, like, yeah, to me, she was just much more entertaining and better before that, and she much more a better singer. Of course, I mean, her voice started really tanking around that era anyway. Like, you could tell she was smoking too much. She was losing the high pitch in her voice. So, anyway, Dira says Tom is right. Rock was supposed to be the next Arnold. That is when Hollywood started to shift, leading the male and female led problems. Now, yeah, that's part of it, Dearest. And thanks for the 5. But I think the other part of it was just that he just isn't as appealing to the masses as the formers that we mentioned were, right? Like Arnold and Sly. And the reason is they appealed on like, if anybody's the closest to an Arnold or Sly right now, it's Jason Statham.
yeah, oh yeah.
And the reason I say that is everybody's like, well, he doesn't have big hits here. Well, neither did Sly and Arnold. What they had was a huge fucking international audience. And you want to know why we keep getting those fucking shark movies from Jason Statham? Because they make a bunch of fucking money outside of the U.S.
I don't know that The Rock is a bad guy in reality in person.
No,
He's a
I'm not even
wonderful person.
implying that at all. Yeah. Although he does piss in
But-
bottles, I guess.
But no, I mean, like the
Well,
most
what?
relatable example for most of us watching here is probably Gina Carano, right? There's certain actors and actresses who just have a kind of energy that people gravitate towards, relate to. Like Jason Statham, he has it. I don't know exactly how to describe what it is, but he has it. And he doesn't need to be the best actor. You put him on screen and he's relatable.
it's the
and
royal
people-
jelly, as Paul Chatto calls
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
You want to watch him. You know, you're
You
you're
think
gonna
I
entertained by
watch
it.
Chuck Norris movies? Big, look how sophisticated his performance is in Invasion USA. No, I watch him so he could kick the shit out of some assholes, mollywop them back to Cuba, and then say some cheesy one-liner.
They have charisma, true charisma. That is where
Yeah.
you don't have to say a fucking word, and just your presence is enough to make everybody look at you. And you know, like a grand example of this, and this is one of my favorite stories, is the Steve McQueen versus Yul Brynner arguments during Magnificent Seven.
Oh yeah.
Because you could talk about two actors who have nothing but pure fucking charisma oozing. right? Because like what happened was is Steve kept, because he wasn't a big star yet at this time. I mean, he's up and coming, but Yule, of course, was a big star at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And every scene they were in together, and I know Nick, you know this story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Steve kept doing business to try and take attention away from Yule because he didn't have a lot of lines.
Yeah.
So he's constantly fidgeting with his hat, fidgeting with something in his hands, doing this, that kind of. Finally, Yule had enough of it, and he goes, "You do that ever again, all I have to do to make you disappear is take off my hat." And he walked away. Steve got the note. He's like, "Ah, shit, I took it too far that time." Because you're right. Once Yul Brynner just takes that hat off, nobody else is looking at anybody else.
Yeah, game over. Straight up, man. I love that movie.
And another actor who's a great example of, he doesn't necessarily have a great range, but he's like one of those guys that he just has that charisma. When he comes into the scene, like Clint Eastwood.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Bruce Lee, like you brought up Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris, yeah.
All those guys, they just come in the room and they have this charisma about them that it just, they don't even have to say a lot of words. It just works for them. Schwarzenegger's another one that it did for him.
Dude.
And Sly is the same thing. But I mean, the beauty of those two guys is they can actually act too at the same time. People don't give Schwarzenegger enough credit, and Sly definitely doesn't give him credit.
Dude, Stallone, that drives me crazy. And you and I, Tom, we've had many conversations on this. We know that Stallone can actually act, and he can write, and he can be charismatic, and he can direct. He can go from having the serious performance in, let's just say, like the first Rocky, to having the cheesy one-liner delivery, like in the opening scene in Cobra, where the guy's like, "I'm gonna blow this grocery store up." And he's like, "Go ahead, I don't shop here anyway." Best lines like ever, like that. And then he'll have stuff that he writes and directs on top of it all, like so like the first Rambo. No, he didn't. No, was it the fourth one that he directed? I can't remember.
Yeah,
but he's definitely done his share of writing and directing. But anyways, I think I'm wrong. But
I think
but we get the point. He can do it all, and he doesn't get credit for it. All he gets credit for is the charismatic action hero lines, which, hey, that's great, but hey, guess what? Our boy here has got so much more to his arsenal, and you ain't even acknowledging that.
Yeah, and they have and that's another way of putting it, a commanding presence. Yes. Yeah, Charlton Heston was a lot like that too. Yeah, another guy who didn't really have a whole shit ton of range, but could walk on a screen and yeah, absolutely. Let's keep moving here. You guys are sending in some great questions and topics, even though we didn't have a whole lot to talk about today. ActionCom, who's been a big help tonight, says, enjoy it while it lasts. Decentralization always drifts back towards centralization to stem chaos, Goldblum voice. That's a chaos theory. I wish I had a better Goldblum voice. I wish I could.
He's right. And that does happen. Let's hope we can try to hold off on that as long as possible. Try to be the timeline that actually learns from the history and try to make sure that that actually doesn't repeat. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. For all I know, we could be back at square one. But if we could go at least 10, 20 years with it being the Wild West with these things, I think that alone would make a huge difference on the culture of things altogether.
You got to create jobs so that you're creating jobs for people to work. Whether they're completely useless and pointless or not, you're going to create them so we can work them. And then you got to justify that you're getting paid for your job by putting up that next stop sign. It's inevitable until we ever kind of like break out of that.
Got a point.
Good luck.
Yeah, and Kevin Costner's another one. Oh God, pure presence. Like him or hate him, he's somebody when he comes on screen, and it's gonna hurt Yellowstone without him. I mean, for the obvious reasons, but I mean, no, he's seriously one of those guys that has major presence.
It's a good point. I mean, like big ball move, just leaving the show and doing his own thing. It's going to hurt the show. It's actually, one of those killers. There's lots of people who leave a show with big balls and it doesn't hurt. When he leaves Yellowstone and that whole franchise.
He says he hadn't even watched it yet. Which is funny because he's listed as in the credits and as an executive producer still and all that business. But yeah. Oh yeah, John Wayne, ultimate commanding presence. Because that talk about a guy who really couldn't act, right? He had one.
I see.
He played one part and one part only, and that's John Wayne.
I see Keanu Reeves in the chat, and being that I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077 right now, if he wasn't in that game, I don't know if I'd play it.
That's a good point. Yeah, Keanu's definitely got some presence. And that was something people could tell right away. ActionCom says Jack Black wants movies for Rockstar Games, Grand Theft Auto, and Red Dead Redemption. Is he wrong? I already feel like the closest thing we're ever going to get to a Grand Theft Auto movie is probably somewhere between Tulsa King and that Ryan Reynolds film. As far as Red Dead Redemption, you could do it. It would just be called a Western. It's like, I mean, I admit that I played the game mainly to get through the story. I'm not going to lie, but I mean, part of the Red Dead Redemption's appeal is you actually get to go around being a cowboy, right? So for somebody who loves the idea of being able to do what you do in Grand Theft Auto only as a cowboy, that's the appeal of that game. I'm not so sure movies of these games would necessarily translate as well. What do you guys think? Let's start with you, CC, since you're our main gamer.
Well, I mean, first of all, if you got 50 hours of good story in a game, you're not going to translate that into a 2-hour movie any more than you're going to translate the Harry Potter books into a 2-hour movie. So you're kind of screwed from the first point. But also, video games are, I mean, they are interactive, right? Like when you watch a movie, you're watching a pre-filmed image on screen. You're not interacting with it, beyond the fact that you're laughing, you're crying, whatever, you're emotionally reacting with it, but you're not actually changing the outcome. In a video game, you are controlling the camera, you're choosing where to walk, where to go, who to talk to, and in some of the more versatile ones, stand behind Baldur's Gate 3, where you can literally kill any NPC in the entire game world and lock yourself out of the story if you kill the main, the critical story characters. You really have agency over how things play out. There's limits, obviously. There's a lot of, because it's really, really complex to do a story tree. Eventually, a lot of games just end up in the same place, but you are really a part of it in a whole different way that you can't translate to a film image. They're very different mediums, and I think that would be one of the major struggles is how do you take a story that's so organic that really, especially with some of these more complex things like Red Dead Redemption, right, even, where every individual player's experience is going to be completely different,
right,
in so many ways. How do you translate that to a static kind of?
Well, and real quick with Grand Theft Auto, like on that side, because I said the same thing with like Red Dead Redemption, you already have basically a movie within the game. With Grand Theft Auto, I mean, the problem with Grand Theft Auto is the game is making fun of all those tropes that are in action films and crime films, right? So like, again, you're looking at the same problem you have with like Tomb Raider, where it's a copy of a copy of a copy kind of thing. But anyway, sorry, CC, finish your thoughts.
No, it's a totally fair point. And there is certainly a way to do that, right? I mean, if you fundamentally you have an interesting character telling an interesting story that's true to the game world, I mean, you're not going to completely replicate Grand Theft Auto from a player's experience where you're just spending the entire day running around the city blowing shit up.
Yeah, how do you translate that unless you're doing something like Free Guy? Yeah.
But if you create an interesting character and interesting situations, maybe you can create a story within that game world for a couple of hours, whereas the player, you're not taken out of being the player, if that makes sense. It's like, okay, I'm still the player, but this is a character in that world, and it's sort of like something that I'm familiar with and that I'm entertained by watching them from their perspective for a couple of hours interact with this game world, right? That would,
Yeah.
if I'm making any kind of sense saying that.
No, absolutely. Right. And that's where I brought up like Tulsa King as an example for Grand Theft Auto. Right. Because that show
Yo,
is
100%. Yeah.
basically like a Grand Theft Auto game. You have this gangster coming into an area where they're, wherever it is, and he just kind of takes over. And that's kind of basically every one of those games. So it's like we already kind of have things like it. And that's the problem, is that Grand Theft Auto is just, it's letting you live those kind of shows and movies. Kind of like how Red Dead Redemption's letting you live the Westerns. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, to Darius's point in the chat, that I mean, it's what we talked about a lot in recent years, right? Is as long as you're true to the source material, imagine that. And I think if you're not taken out of the world, if the world is true to what you understand it to be, if it follows the rules, and you're watching a story within it, then people will accept that. They will gravitate towards it. It's going to get good word of mouth.
Okay. Well, Dearest, here's the point. And I get where you're coming from, Dearest, and I totally don't disregard what you're saying at all. So don't take what I'm saying as saying that. The difference I'm saying here is like, I have a hard time wrapping my head around how do you make a game into a movie? You could just take the story and adapt that straightforward into a movie, right? Like, I'm not arguing with you there, right? I totally get the player experience and the story are two completely different things. But in some games, you have multiple storylines or multiple outcomes. And I know, like, whenever I bring up Mortal Kombat, somebody brings up that, yeah, well, canonically, they say that Johnny Cage won the first combat. That's fine. That's fair. But that's not my point. What makes a game different than a movie? Right? Like, that's the ultimate point I'm trying to make. Like, yeah, you can do the straightforward adaptations like you did with Sonic and Mario Brothers and Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And you can keep a show or a movie going, series going like that for a while. And the gamers will probably be happy. And for the most part, the audience is either going to respond to it or they're not. But to me, it's like, how do you make that experience of a movie different than the game? Right? Because this was the point I was getting at, is like somebody brought up in the chat, and we were talking in the chat, like, you basically can watch Red Dead Redemption, the movie. All you do is just go watch all the cutscenes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, it's like, so at that point, it's like, how much, you know what I mean? Like, even something like Final Fantasy movie that they did, that CGI movie, I know it's not based on any game, but I give them credit for trying to do something that wasn't exactly just the adapting the game, right? Like, I get it if you're doing a character like Mario or Sonic, they have to be the focal point. But if you're doing something like Last of Us or something like that that's set in a world, right? You don't necessarily always have to follow the main leads necessarily, is kind of my point. But anyway, you're about to say something, CC.
Well, it depends on the game and the franchise. Like, it was the Super Mario, the recent
Right,
Super Mario Brothers movie was a much simpler process because you just created the world, right? But the experience, the particular game that I see come up the most as a Star Wars fan is the Old Republic, and I am really glad that remake seemed to disappear because that was not going to go over well. You cannot possibly adapt that storyline, the Revan storyline, into a movie, because that is completely player agency, right?
Right. Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is how do you attack something like a game compared to a book or a comic book is so much easier to adapt.
Yeah.
That's my point. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, I was just saying, like, whereas with Super Mario Brothers, they aced it because they did it correctly. It was they really just like created, the world in a simple form with the characters that you remember and put them in fun situations. A game like the Old Republic and the characters in that, because there's so much player agency over light side versus dark side, you cannot have the movie character go in a defined direction because it's never going to satisfy the wealth of different experiences. Like that story, right? That story, not just the player experience, is going to be different for every player. So you'd have to create something that is true to the rules and the lore of that world, which Disney has not done with Star Wars at all, of course. But but even within what is set within that game, and maybe even if you don't want to create something completely original, if we're going to say it's absolutely based on the story of Star Wars: The Old Republic, then create something that enhances it. Create something that where there's a character who exists sort of within the periphery of the story within the game world, and we can invest in them and how, because it's like with the expanded universe, you have the Jedi Academy trilogy, right? And people were kind of lukewarm about that trilogy. It's a very, very critical trilogy within the expanded universe because it bridges between the original Thrawn trilogy and the New Jedi Order trilogy, or sorry, not trilogy, the New Jedi Order series, right? You have this trilogy of novels called New Jedi Order, where Luke is building the New Jedi Order before you have this enormous series of books expanding upon that. But they were kind of considered mediocre, right? So what happened later is you had an author who wrote a much superior book, well, he's by at least aggregate fan consideration, a superior book that retells those three that trilogy of the Jedi Academy from the perspective of a popular character from the Rogue Squadron series, right? And it doesn't diminish or destroy the Jedi Academy trilogy. It just creates a different way of experiencing and allowing readers to kind of, I don't know, find another way through it, right? So you can do that. You can take a game, you can focus on a side character and how they view the story so that you're seeing it through a different pair of eyes, right? And expanding upon it. And that might be one way to go. Highly recommend that book, by the way. But
Nick, Price, do you guys have anything to say on the game thing? Like, I mean, we kind of.
I got nothing to add to this conversation, especially of recent times. So I don't feel like I have a place in this one.
All right, fair enough. Jesus Davila sends us in £1.99 to remind you to pound that like button. A thumbs up. Thank you so much.
You don't have
and
to
then
ask me.
That's right. Jason Webster says the early reviews for Gladiator 2 have said the film is solid and enjoyable, but not great or good as the 2000 film starring Russell Crowe. Well, I'll tell you from somebody who I actually trust really well, because they're not supposed to actually review the film yet. It's still technically on, what do you call it? They got an embargo, but they can say like certain reactions, but they can't actually give a review. That individual said it sucked. And when I said, so it's basically an overpriced straight to video sequel, they're like, yeah, basically. Then Death Judas sends in €5 and says, but Killers of the Flower Moon was like how Hollywood would be with Harvey Weinstein because all the people ignored the obvious and moved on. Opinions. With Harvey Weinstein because all the people ignored the obvious and moved on.
I haven't seen the movie yet.
The
so
parallels, are you like, if you're making the parallels, yes, I can see where you're coming from here. But I don't think anybody in modern Hollywood would be bright enough to see the parallels. But yeah. No, I can't argue with that. Like, really, I don't have much more of an opinion on it than that I believe you're right. I think that's kind of one of the reasons why it was maybe overlooked, but it wasn't overlooked. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure what you're kind of asking here as far as like them ignoring the obvious, or is that's just the plot of the film? I mean, in general, Death Judas. You have to expand upon that just a little bit. You don't have to send in another super chat, just add us in the chat. ActionCom says, were any of you forced to watch the Ken Burns documentaries growing up? Well, I wasn't forced. I enjoyed most of them. Some of them I haven't seen. I like the baseball one. He recently did one about country music that I haven't watched yet that I want to check out. I haven't seen the Civil War one yet. I'm trying to remember all his other ones he's done. Bryce, you seem like the only one who I could think of who might be even familiar with these.
Ken Burns documentaries?
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong.
Remind me of one.
Baseball.
Is this the same guy who had the Ken Burns effect named after him? Or am I thinking of someone else?
I actually, I guess I'm not a good candidate for that one. I don't know.
He did one on the Civil War. He did, like I said, more recently, he did one on country music.
I guess I feel like I must have watched one of his at least. Now that you mention it, I've watched some of his movies. I remember the name, but the ones that you said about baseball, I didn't see, and the country music one, I didn't see either.
Well, yeah, just the baseballs is probably his most well-known one. Second one being the Civil War. I mean, he's done tons of them. But his style is pretty. Once you know the style, like it's pretty. I think he's fine. As far as I'm concerned, sorry.
I guess I'm not a big enough expert on Ken Burns to weigh in.
I was never forced to watch any of them as far as that goes.
No, nobody forced me to watch anything. In general, nobody in my family forced me to watch anything. I think that I watched whatever I wanted to watch.
CC, you ever watch any of his?
No, the only exposure I have to Ken Burns was that Ken Burns effect where you're panning over a photographic image. So that's what I have in my mind, but I have no idea if this.
I'm pretty sure that comes from him because that's probably what it is. Because like I was going to say, is he kind of molded and formed what modern documentaries are like, and that probably came from him because a lot of his documentaries, since he didn't have video to work with, were just literally panning over still images or zooming in and out.
This is the guy, then, the Ken Burns effect, yeah.
I would imagine, because I mean he's kind of like the modern. Nick, have you ever seen like baseball, the documentary these showed on PBS every couple of years? And
no, I have not. I know of it, but I never got around to it. I sadly, I shame on me for not saying it because I love me some baseball movies. I've seen a lot of them, but that's one of the one that slipped me by.
They have a very leisurely pace to them. So, I mean, you kind of get into them and you're just kind of like, okay, you just kind of get swept up into them. They're not like, they don't feel like they're, you know, how most documentaries, a lot of times, especially like, you know, when they're using real life, you know, footage and stuff of events that are happening, you know, they try to amp it all up and stuff like that. They just have a really naturally just kind of kick back and you can tell why they were on PBS. Like, I mean, if you're really interested in a topic, he's got a documentary. It's for you because it's going to dive into just about everything and anything you could get into about it, the history of it. But otherwise, most people might find them kind of boring and slow and dull, and very educational. So, yeah. No, we didn't get forced to watch him in schools. I guess he did one on national parks as well. But yeah, Civil War one and baseball are probably his two most notable ones. Yeah. Surprised he hasn't done one yet on like the NFL, stuff like that. But ActionCom says, were any of you forced to watch Ken? Oh, wait, we just got this one.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, Groundhog Day. So with that, I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
We went for 2 hours on talking about nothing. It's like a Seinfeld episode.
That's good. No, we made it happen. We had a great chat who threw some stuff our way. We caught it and we went all the way with it.
Yeah, you guys are great tonight. Thanks for throwing out topics for us to chit chat about. Appreciate it. Yeah, sometimes Conan would do the spoofs. Yeah, I remember those. Yeah. Indeed. So with that, I want to thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. Price, you got anything coming up? I think you shared your link here in the background. I could probably
there's the Quantum Leap stream at 10 p.m. and then there's the Night Owl at 11:45. That's on my live stream channel, not the regular one, which is Price of Reason Live. So anybody that's watching now, if you feel like doing a good deed today, you should go to Price of Reason Live and subscribe.
There you go. And if you haven't already, also subscribe to Nick. What you got coming up, Nick? You got the show tomorrow night, don't you?
Yeah, Klobby's Comic Shop tomorrow. We'll probably do a little bit of a shorter edition since that Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight I want to watch. And we'll record a video right at the stream in between now and TNT, and I'll be out either tomorrow or Saturday.
Who do you think's gonna win? Do you think Tyson's gonna knock his ass out?
Man, I hope.
I hope so.
I don't know.
I would never want to run into Mike Tyson's fist.
I wouldn't either.
I don't care how old he is.
Yeah, I would never want to get close to trying to mess with Mike Tyson. I saw him almost let loose on some dude because let's just say they are not happy the way he voted. And he just like, yeah, I did that. What are you gonna do? And I was just like, if this guy's smart, he'll end this conversation fast. Very fast. Otherwise, he's gonna get a mollywhopping and not live to tell the story about it. So yes, I hope. I don't.
How many real fights has Jake Paul actually been in?
I don't know. I've not kept track. I see Dragon Bricks mentioned
he has done some real.
It won't be a draw. Either he's gonna win or he's gonna lose. that's how it's always been.
I'm
with
just
those
curious, like,
fighters.
I mean, what kind of record he's got? I mean, how good of a fighter really is he? Because look, I remember Tyson back in his prime. And
he was like a
let me put it to
movie
you this way.
character.
Yeah, fucking pay-per-view people hated him because his fights would be over in 10 seconds. And you think I'm exaggerating? I am not.
No, you're right.
I think the
I
record was
remember my
like, what,
dad would
6
order
seconds or
those.
something like that? Because he'd come on and he'd fucking go ding, ding, ding. Or actually, I got the sound effect here. It'd be like, literally, the guy hitting the mat.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Like, that was every Tyson fight. You're like, I did a good job, Ma.
I remember those when I was a kid. My dad would bring all his friends from work over. You know, I'd be a kid watching these fights. I'd be like, wow. And I used to think like this character was like, to me, he was like a character from like a movie, but in real life. I just remember being blown away, like that a human could do what he.
I'm surprised that Sly never thought of somebody like him as a villain. I mean, the closest you got is Ivan Drago, but I mean, like, come on. I guess
thing that he's done was when they used him in WWF, because I'm going to say WWF, when he was the referee for Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels, and they kind of centered around Tyson was against Austin, and I was like, I remember that confrontation. That was like.
What's weird is like Clubber Lang was like Tyson before Tyson. Like,
yeah, dude.
No, but Tyson never had to talk shit. See, that's the thing. He just spoke in the ring, right? Like, see, Clubber liked to talk his smack.
Oh yeah, he loved talking the game. He even tried laying some stuff down on Adrian in Rocky 3.
Well, speaking of Sylvester Stallone, believe it or not, kids. Do you know who's responsible for the whole "I pity the fool"? It's Sylvester Stallone who wrote that line.
Yep.
And speaking of Sylvester Stallone, I don't know if you guys saw this. This is a good way to leave us on this one. I know this is a little political, but fuck it.
I'm involved.
This is Sly at Mar-a-Lago.
I'm listening to this.
Oh,
I need it. When George Washington defended his country, he had no idea that he was going to change the world. Because without him, you can imagine what the world would look like. Guess what? We got the second George Washington. Congratulations!
He called Trump the second George Washington.
With the first Cobra.
Don't forget that Rocky brought an end to the Cold War. Never forget that.
Wow. So that was a few minutes ago at Mar-a-Lago.
I don't know when it was, about 39 minutes ago it was posted.
Oh, okay. So he's at Mar-a-Lago. That makes sense. He did move to Florida recently, so
This is true.
Yeah, he did. He would. Now that he was very public about how his last state was not what it once was. So he moved. So you know,
this is one of the reasons why I've been telling people to check out Tulsa King is like, you guys don't understand how much of a not woke show that is.
That is a great show.
I will start watching it tomorrow. I will start now that
that clip that went around where he was bitching about pronouns, that's from that show.
Oh, I know. I saw the first season. I gotta watch the second season.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The second season, some people have been saying it's not as good. I had no problems with it, but the last episode comes this Sunday, so I can't wait. Mm-hmm. We got Cobra Kai starting tonight, tomorrow, whatever you want to consider it. 3 a.m. in the morning where I'm at, or 2 a.m., something like that. Yeah. But anyhow, CC, what you got going on? We ever going to do some Oki?
We'll have to figure it out. My Restream subscription is lapsed. But so I actually have no way to host it now. And I have no money. I'm actually completely broke for at least a little while. But yeah.
Nah, it's all right, brother. Well, we'll figure something out here soon. But yeah, check out CC Karaoke's channel. He does have a bunch of stuff up there, and all your karaoke needs can be handled by CC Karaoke for the most part. So there you go. Some of the best karaoke out there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'd have it no other way.
What the hell is that? Oh, Cobra Kai. I was just saying, what the hell? I didn't see the geese originally. I was trying to figure out what it was. It looked like mushrooms with weird, nasty eyes and a mustache. I was like, oh, okay, it's a geese. And snakes. Gotcha. And karaoke finds a way. All
True.
right, kids. Thanks so much for being here. Take care of yourselves. Check in with Price here on the show. I think
Quantum Leap.
Script Doctor might be there. He was supposed to be here, but he didn't get out of his meeting time. So, yeah, check out the Quantum Leap cast. And with that, see you kids in the morning show, where we'll have WDW Pro, where we'll talk all about the Bob Iger stuff, I'm sure. Bye.